Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to StarCraft 2 Strategy. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Terran strategy. Now in this strategy replay, our Terran player is Phoenix, and our Zerg opponent is going to be Bubba. Going to go ahead and go into Phoenix Vision. So again, we're looking at a Terran versus Zerg strategy. In particular, what we're going to be looking at is doing some early aggression with some Marines and some Hellions, trying to poke at their economy, trying to whittle down their army, and just trying to do a lot of harassment essentially, and then transitioning into going for Banshees. Now, I know a lot of people really get in this mindset where they go for this build, they go for a particular build, say Marine Marauder, and they just stick with that build. They don't deviate from it for any reason. They just, they get their upgrades, they start massing units. If they start to get more of an economy, instead of thinking about switching things up depending on what's going on with your opponent, they just think, okay, well, the more I get, the better. I'll just get more Marines and more Marauders. Or in this example, again, we're starting off with that Marine Hellion. They'll just think, okay, I'll just build more barracks for more Marines and a couple more factories and just get more Hellions and more and more and more. Well, that's not necessarily always the best situation. Now, I know a lot of times, especially once upgrades come into play, once you've vested a lot of resources into a certain type of unit, you do like to keep that unit because, again, if you research the level weapon upgrades or the armor upgrades, it's a lot of times good to continue producing that unit. But if your opponent's doing something where if you were to switch your tech, you'd be in a really good position, there's no reason not to do that. Now, before I go any further about this, I'll go ahead and go over that build order. We started off pretty basic stuff with 10 supply depot, 12 barracks, and 13 refinery. Pretty standard opening there. But back to what I was saying is that, if your opponent is in a situation where you get in a certain type of unit is going to help you a ton, then don't be scared to do that. Just because you've invested resources or just because you've started a certain type of build doesn't mean you can't switch it up. And again, what we're going to be looking at here is we start the game off by just going for some Marines and Hellions to try to do some early harassment. And then we see that, well, if I had Cloak Banshees right now, this would be really good. So we switch up. We get Cloak Banshees. We drop a Starport, we get a Tech Lab, and we research Cloak, and we get some Banshees out. And it turns out that because we did that, it takes our opponent off guard, and we do end up winning the game. Now we are moving up into our opponent's base. We do see this fast expansion. Again, really standard stuff for Zerg. Going for a quick expansion is pretty much the usual for Zerg players. Almost all Zerg players. One base play is kind of risky as Zerg, and it's kind of tough to pull off. Once you start to fall behind without getting that extra larva and that extra economy, it's really tough as Zerg to stay ahead of the other races whose strength is really in one base play. With that said, I do think that maybe that's just how Zerg is supposed to play, but I really feel like Zerg should have some more viable options for one base play, because at the moment I don't really think that they have too many. You did see there that our Zerg opponent dropped an extractor in our base that gave them vision and of course stopped us from getting additional gas as well. And so obviously we were forced to not be able to tech up that high at that point. We were able to kill it by pumping out some Marines. And again, we're going to keep coming with these Marines. Once this factory is done, we're going to go ahead and start producing some Hellions. And we did drop that factory at 18 supply. That was right after our Orbital Command started building at 16 supply. That second refinery went up at 24. Now we do have a few Marines, and we're going to be pushing out with them a couple of SCVs, as well as this Hellion. As soon as the Hellion comes out, we're going to do our push. Few things to note, you really have a few options in a push like this. Again, we did see that fast expand, which is pretty usual for a Zerg player. But bringing up these SCVs, it's going to allow you to be a little bit more offensive, a little more damage. It's also going to allow you to place down bunkers if you feel like that would be a good option for you. But also, it's going to allow you to repair this Hellion, and that's kind of really the primary thing. Getting the repair on this Hellion is going to be really beneficial, going to extend its lifespan quite a bit. It's the same as pushing out with any other mech units and SCVs. If you do bring SCVs along with any mechanical units, that repair is going to help you a ton. So it's going to keep this Hellion alive just a little bit longer. So again, we're moving in, we're doing as much harassment as possible. Taking a look back at our base, we do have that Starport down, as well as that Tech Lab building. Now that did happen at 26 supply. Basically, we dropped that Starport right after we put down our refinery. And again, that's kind of what I was talking about, where we saw that, okay, well, he doesn't really have much anti-air, he doesn't have much in the way of tech, he doesn't have his layer yet. So if I get some Banshees out right now, we're going to be in a really good spot. So right after the refinery, right before we did push out, we dropped that Starport. We have started researching Cloak right now. And yeah, that's just what we're looking to do. We continued up this harassment. We did a pretty decent amount of economical damage over here. Still even have an SCV poking around in his base, which he's not even aware of yet. It's pretty funny. There we go. Finally it does take it out. So yeah, we did that push. We were pretty successful in doing some harassment, but now we're really going to do that thing of taking them by surprise or catching them off guard. Again, they don't have layer at the moment. No layer tech. They've just been going for this fast expand economy and speedlings. And we're going to take as much advantage of that as possible. We are finishing a little block off here by dropping this tech lab for the barracks, as well as getting a supply depot. Stopping them from just running speedlings into our base. We're also preparing just in case that this doesn't work, just in case our Banshee attack isn't successful. We are dropping this command center now. Again, this is one of those spots where if we were to push out here and if we were to repel it and we didn't do enough damage, if we stayed on one base after this point, we'd kind of start to fall behind because he does have this expansion with that extra economy. So we do need to prepare to expand if necessary. So pushing forward with this Banshee here, as you can see, Cloak is researching. It's going to be done pretty shortly. He's got that evolution chamber coming down once he saw those Banshees, so that he can go ahead and drop some spore colonies on the ground. But unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit too late for him. I mean, he's not really the Spore Crawler. It used to be called a Spore Colony. I knew I said that wrong. It's going to be a little too late for him. We do have that Cloak just finishing right now. As you can see, the Spore Crawler is just building right now. So all we really have to do is move away from it, and we're pretty much going to be able to take care of it, no problem. He does go ahead and call a good game. As you can see, again, we caught him by surprise, and that's kind of the whole goal. Distracting them with some early harassment with those Marines and Hellions, and then switching into that fast Banshee tech and catching them off guard. So again, we're going to go ahead and go into this build order here. We started off with that 10 supply depot, following it up with a 12 barracks and then a 13 refinery. That 16 supply, we did get that Orbital Command, and then 18 supply, we dropped that factory. In the meantime, we were producing as many Marines as we could, just continuously pumping them out. As soon as that factory was done, we started building our first Hellion, and we decided to push out. Now 24 supply, we got our refinery, and right before we actually hit with that push, we started preparing for that tech switch by dropping that Starport at 26 supply. We went ahead, we started doing that push, we started doing that harassment. As soon as the Starport was finished building, we dropped that tech lab, continued up harassment. Once the tech lab was finished, we started researching Cloak as well as building our first Banshee. And then after he eventually repelled that initial attack, we were able to push out with the Banshee. So again, guys, this has been for StarCraft 2 strategy. If you guys like our videos and you like what we're doing here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. Now this is the point that we do decide that we're going to go ahead and move out. Now again, we saw that fast expansion, so we know he's going to be behind an army, and we are taking practically all of our SCVs. We're going to continue SCV production for the off chance that this doesn't work, because if it doesn't, we're pretty much going to be really screwed. But